Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Ashta Sakis, Shriman Mahaprabhu Giri Govardhan ki jai, Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki jai, Panchatattva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Nashta preshu bhatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. We are reading first canto, 10th chapter, verses 30 to 32. So there is purport to verse 30, and there is also purport to verse 32. So my idea is to read first the 30 verse, and then 31, and then we sing 32. Is that correct? Okay. Eta param stritvam apasta palesham nirasta shocham bata sadhu kurvate yasam grihat pushkara lochana patir Nayatva paiti ahritibir hridis prishan. And translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. All these women auspiciously glorified their lives, despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. And then purport. The devotees of the Lord are purified souls. As soon as the devotees surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord sincerely, the Lord accepts them, and thus the devotees at once become free from all material contaminations. Such devotees are above the three modes of material nature. There is no bodily disqualification of a devotee, just as there is no qualitative difference between the Ganges water and the filthy drain water when they are amalgamated. Women, merchants, and laborers are not very intelligent, and thus it is very difficult for them to understand the science of God or to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. They are more materialistic, and less than them are the Kiratas, Hunas, Andras, Pulindas, Pulkashas, Abiras, Kankas, Yavanas, Kasas, etc. But all of them can be delivered if they are properly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. By engagement in the service of the Lord, the designative disqualifications are removed, and as pure souls, they become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. The fallen girls under the clutches of Bhaumasura sincerely prayed to Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa for their deliverance, and their sincerity of purpose made them at once pure by virtue of devotion. The Lord therefore accepted them as His wives, and thus their lives became glorified. Such auspicious glorification was still more glorified when the Lord played with them as the most devoted husband. The Lord used to live with his 16,108 wives constantly. He expanded himself into 16,108 plenary portions, and each and every one of them was the Lord himself, without deviation from the original personality. The Shruti mantra affirms that the Lord can expand himself into many. As husband of so many wives, he pleased them all with presentations, even at a costly endeavor. He brought the parijata plant from heaven and implanted it at the palace of Satyabhama, one of the principal queens. If therefore anyone desires the Lord to become one's husband, the Lord fulfills such desires in full. And now verse 31. Evam vida gadantinam sa gira purayoshitam nirikṣhanena binandan sasmitena yayau harihi. While the ladies of the capital of Hastinapura were greeting him and talking in this way, the Lord, smiling, accepted their good greetings, and casting the grace of his glance over them, he departed from the city. And now verse 32, which is on the board. Ajāta-śatruḥ pṛtanāṁ gopīthāya madhu-dviṣaḥ parebhyaḥ śaṅkitaḥ snehāt prāyuṅkta catur-aṅgiṇīm. Ajāta-śatruḥ pṛtanāṁ gopīthāya madhu-dviṣaḥ parebhyaḥ śaṅkitaḥ snehāt prāyuṅkta catur-aṅgiṇīm. Please repeat. Gopīthāya madhu-dviṣaḥ parebhyaḥ śaṅkitaḥ snehāt prāyuṅkta catur-aṅgiṇīm. Ajāta-śatruḥ pṛtanāṁ gopīthāya madhu-dviṣaḥ parebhyaḥ śaṅkitaḥ snehāt prāyuṅkta catur-aṅgiṇīm. Ajāta-śatruḥ pṛtanāṁ gopīthāya madhu-dviṣaḥ parebhyaḥ śaṅkitaḥ snehāt prāyuṅkta catur-aṅgiṇīm. Okay, thank you. Translation. The elementary creation of 16 items of matter, namely the 5 elements, water, fire, land, air, and sky, sound, form, taste, smell, touch, and the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind is known. Did I just skip? Skin and the mind is known as sarga, whereas subsequent resultant interaction of the... I'm not reading. Yeah, I thought so. But then I don't understand. Yeah, it's like mistake in a book. Because the verse is on this side. Can someone give me a mobile phone? Because I don't understand how the book can have such a... okay. Yeah. So, Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, although no one's enemy, engaged 4 divisions of defense: horse, elephant, chariot, and army, to accompany Lord Kṛṣṇa, the enemy of the asuras, demons. The Mahārāja did this because of the enemy and also out of affection for the Lord. Natural defensive measures are horses and elephants combined with chariots and men. Horses and elephants are trained to move to any part of the hills or forests and plains. The charioteers could fight with many horses and elephants by the strength of powerful arrows, even up to the standard of the brahmāstra, similar to modern atomic weapons. Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira knew well that Kṛṣṇa is everyone's friend and well-wisher, and yet there were asuras who were by nature envious of the Lord. So out of fear of attack from others and out of affection also, he engages all varieties of defensive forces or bodyguards of Lord Kṛṣṇa. If required, Lord Kṛṣṇa himself was sufficient to defend himself from the attack of others who counted the Lord as their enemy, but still he accepted all the arrangements made by Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira because he could not disobey the king, who was his elder cousin. The Lord plays the part of a subordinate in his transcendental sporting, and thus sometimes he puts himself in the care of Yaśodāmātā for his protection in his so-called helplessness of childhood. That is the transcendental lila or pastime of the Lord. The basic principle for all transcendental exchanges between the Lord and his devotees is exhibited to enjoy a transcendental bliss for which there is no comparison, even up to the level of Brahmananda. Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Śrī Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Tadaham Yatkripadadaham Vande Śrī Gurum Dinataranam Śrī Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it was 2 purports and also 3 verses, and also we have just few days before Janmashtami. So I have to speak about or somehow connect all these topics, and I want to start with these ladies of Hastinapura who are reciting these verses. We heard it was the end of their prayers. They are watching Kṛṣṇa leaving the city after the battle of Kurukshetra, and they are standing on the balconies of the houses. They are the relatives of the Pandavas, and they are watching the parade leaving the city. So they are also showering flower petals on Kṛṣṇa, and then they are talking about him and remembering his pastimes. So this I found very interesting, that this is not the first time they are seeing Kṛṣṇa leaving the city. This already happened, but of course, because Bhagavatam is not in chronological order, we hear in the first canto about Krishna's pastimes, which happened at the end of his Leela on planet Earth. And then later we hear about the events that happened during his lifetime. So now Krishna is leaving after the battle of Kurukshetra, but before he was also visiting Pandavas, and one occasion when he visited them is described in the 10th canto, in the chapters 71, and in this on this occasion he was actually bringing all the queens. He was going from Dvaraka to Indraprastha, and he was going to Rajasuya sacrifice, and he was bringing all his queens with him, and also with children. So as we know, at that time Pandavas were residing at Indraprastha, which was a city they built in a desert, and then Duryodhana became envious because of how well they managed to organize their city, and it became so prosperous. And then these are the events that led to Kurukshetra war. So at that time, when Krishna was bringing his queens, there is a description of the procession. So I want to read. Yeah, this is the verse 15. That Lord Achyuta's faithful wives, along with their children, followed the Lord on golden palanquins carried by powerful men. The queens were adorned with fine clothing, ornaments, fragrant oils, and flower garlands, and they were surrounded on all sides by soldiers carrying swords and shields in their hands. So we see from this description that Krishna was taking the time to go on a journey and bringing all his wives and servants and military with him. So this would be about a few million people going from Dvaraka to Indraprastha on that occasion. And all these descriptions are there. So obviously, when he was leaving Indraprastha, all the queens were also living with him, and on that occasion, these women who are relatives of Pandavas, they were watching them, and that is why on this occasion they are also remembering how the queens were living. So in the purport it is described how they were captured by Bhaumasura, they were kept in a prison, in a dungeon, and then Krishna came and he saved them. They were praying to him, and they were praying also that he accepts them as their wives, which he did. And then they became his wives. Krishna already had his eight principal queens, and then these ladies became all his other queens. So he had 16,108 queens in Dvaraka. So although here it's explained that because they were captured by Bhaumasura, they were not, nobody would marry them. So they were not considered pure by Vedic standards, and that is why Krishna accepted them. So although this is the explanation, we know that they are not ordinary persons. They are not ordinary girls. They are actually expansions of gopis, and they are which means expansions of Krishna's internal potency. And as is described here also in the purport, Krishna is never separated from his potencies, and that is why in the Leela Krishna expands to be always present with all of his queens in each and every palace. And I found that explanation is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur about the number. Of course, I have to find it. About the number, what is the significance of this number of queens, and also what is their position. So this is a quote from Skanda Purana, which is quoted in the purport to verse 43 in chapter 59 of the 10th canto. So it is a conversation and from Skanda Purana, which is quoted by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. At that place, 16,000 gopis were assembled with Krishna, who is considered the supreme, the super soul, the shelter of all living beings. These gopis are his renowned 16 potencies, O goddess. Krishna is like the moon, and the gopis are like its phases, and the full contingent of gopis is like the full sequence of the moon's 16 phases. Each of these 16 divisions of gopis, my dear Varangana, so this is some conversation, it's not explained who is speaking, is subdivided into 1,000 parts. So his potencies, 16 potencies expand into 16,000 parts. And then comment is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that therefore, just as the Lord of Dwaraka is a plenary expansion of the supremely complete Lord of Shri Vrindavan, so his principal queens are full expansions of his supremely complete pleasure potencies, the gopis. And this is the explanation. So why in the pastime, Dwaraka pastimes, Krishna expands and he is personally present with every gopi in every palace. And I found that also Srila Prabhupada explains that in the third canto, there is a short description of this pastime in a chapter which is titled Krishna's Pastimes Outside of Vrindavan. This is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya Rishi, where Vidura is teaching him Bhagavatam. So he is explaining about Krishna. And he concludes also that Krishna was always showing detachment in all his pastimes. And then the question was, how was he showing detachment when he was always present with the gopis? And Prabhupada gives this explanation that this is because they are his internal potency, and then they are non-different. And he quotes this verse from Brahma Samhita. I have to find it. Of course. Chintamani prakarasadma shukalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhira vipalayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. And which says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or gopis. So this is a description of the spiritual world where we see that Krishna is always served by his Lakshmis or gopis. And then when he comes to earth to perform his pastimes, then obviously his Shakti expansions, they come with him and they are always with him. So we'll learn we are able to understand these truths about Krishna because we are devotees, and for us it makes sense. But for many people, Krishna is ordinary person, and they just have prejudices, and exactly why we appreciate Krishna for being the Supreme Person is the same reason for them not to accept Krishna as a Supreme Person. So especially because we are in a few days we are celebrating Krishna Janmashtami, his appearance. I was thinking how it's unfortunate that so many people in the world are not celebrating, and this is either because they think Krishna is not part of their tradition outside of India, or even in India, people don't consider Krishna to be the Supreme Person. And this I found out when once I saw a comment. Somebody wrote a comment about understanding that the Supreme is eternal and therefore formless, and he doesn't have a form. So he was explaining this from the point of view of Hinduism, which is what, of course, bothered me, because we don't agree with these conceptions, and we are also presenting the tradition of the Vedas. So the explanation was that the Supreme Truth, which is eternal and formless, he takes form only for the purpose so that we, his worshippers, can address our desires. That was the explanation. And otherwise there's no need for him to take a form, because he's Supreme Brahman and he's without qualities. And so this made me realize that even in India, many people, they see, okay, Supreme is Brahman, and then there are these different forms that we pray to, but otherwise our dharma is to attain liberation and just leave this world. So even in India, this is what people understand, that this is what is representing Vedic tradition, and that is the reason why they don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Person and as his supreme form, because we see that even great yogis, for example, such as Narada Muni or any yogi who has mystic powers, they can move from one place to another. They have mystic powers, and Krishna was traveling. He was not exhibiting much. He was exhibiting extreme powers which nobody could imitate sometimes, and sometimes he was acting just like an ordinary person. So this, for somebody who does not accept Krishna as supreme, is confusing, is contradictory. Like, what If he has powers, why wouldn't he use them always? Why would he just sometimes use his powers and then sometimes play the role of a human being? And that is why they don't accept him as the Supreme Person. So this is actually not their fault also, because Krishna explains, oh no, I have to find it now, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that Sanskrit verse is Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudo yam nabijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. That I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. And also the same conclusion is given by Queen Kunti in the 8th chapter, where she is glorifying Krishna, and she says, Maya javani kachanam agya doksha jam avyayam na lakshya se madhu-dviṣaḥ nato natya daroyata. That being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So when he comes here, when he comes to material world, he's performing pastimes, and he is not easily recognized. He is only recognized by his devotees who accept him as supreme. So it's interesting that even during his pastime on earth, many people also could not recognize him as the Supreme Person, and famously Shishupal was offending him when he was being glorified as the Supreme and as the most highest person in the assembly at the Rajasuya sacrifice of Yudhiṣṭhira Mahārāja. Of course, we know that Yudhiṣṭhira Mahārāja, his only purpose of performing Rajasuya sacrifice was to glorify Krishna. He didn't have this need to conquer all the directions and become emperor. He just wanted to glorify Krishna, and that everybody accepts him as the Supreme. This is also covering is described in Ishopanishad 15th verse. Hiranmayena patrena satya syapi hitam mukam tat tvam pushan apavrinu satya dharmaya drishtaye. And Srila Prabhupada gives a translation which I copied from a purport, and then I found out that this translation is much longer than the usual translation given to this verse, and I found that fascinating. So his translation is, "Oh my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya. The Brahma Jyotir is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchitananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge." So we celebrate his appearance, and we also want everybody to know about Krishna. We also want that people appreciate his pastimes. And is it our service to tell everybody about Krishna? Of course, it is. And how do we know that this is our service? We know because Lord Chaitanya, he was doing that. He was traveling alone or accompanied by one servant, and he was everybody he met, he would ask them, please chant Krishna's name, please accept Krishna and chant his name. So we are followers of, we are glorifying Krishna as ordained by Lord Chaitanya. Of course, many people, without the mission of Lord Chaitanya, without the Sankirtan movement, many people, including me probably, would never hear about Krishna. And this is, it's special that we meet devotees and we get suddenly this clarity in our lives that, oh, so it was Krishna that was the object of all my searching, because people are searching for God, they are searching for love, they are searching for communities. They have different ideas what is life all about, but actually they are all searching for Krishna, as we know, as he's the supreme person, and he's in a relationship with all the jivas. And nobody else can fully satisfy this need for an eternal relationship. It's only him. So that is why I found it interesting also how this first canto we meet Krishna, and we meet him toward the end of his appearance on earth. And then from the second chapter till the 9th, we don't hear about we don't hear direct descriptions of him. We just hear, like in the third canto, somebody telling, somebody teaching Bhagavatam and then mentioning Krishna, but it's not that directly the story is described by Shukadev Goswami. So this is for us to understand the position of Bhagavatam, how Bhagavatam is composed for people of Kali Yuga, that Krishna is leaving, and this was one of the questions of the sages, that now that Krishna, at that time, the sages at the Naimisharanya, already Krishna left, and they were asking, so now what will be the dharma for this age? And so this is very convenient, because I have a verse written on the board, but translation is covered, so I will just read it from a book. This verse, that Krishna svādhamupāgate dharma jnana-dviṣaḥ kalau nashta drisham esha puranarko dunodita. The Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Kṛṣṇa to his own abode, accompanied by religion and knowledge. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So Krishna leaves and age of Kali begins. Actually, yesterday I heard this explanation that that Kali Yuga did not begin exactly when Krishna left, but at the moment when Draupadi was disrobed, and somehow it made sense to me. So Kali Yuga is very much a time when Varnashrama fails. And we see how the rise of technology and the rise of machines is being considered like as advancement, but Bhagavatam says no. Actually, Kali Yuga is a dark age. Is an age when vice prevails and people are very sinful, and it's compared, like in this verse, is compared with the darkness, and it's a time when people have lost this vision. So what is this vision that we people of Kali Yuga have lost? That they would need Bhagavatam to be their son. As their son, and this vision is the vision of what is human life all about, and what is spirituality, that in whatever condition we find ourselves in, is we should always keep this goal, that practice of sadhana and spiritual life is meant to help us out of the material world, and that to have this understanding that this is not a place to find happiness, and this is not a place where we would want to stay. So this vision gives us, it is a vision of the spiritual world, where Krishna is eternally performing pastimes with his associates. And it's interesting that the first scene in Bhagavatam where Krishna is introduced is a scene when he is being approached by Arjuna, who just found out that Ashvatthama killed his 5 sons, and he was also launching a brahmāstra against him. So Arjuna was then advised by Krishna to kill him. And then we know Draupadi again, she intervened and she said, no, you should spare his life. And then he found this solution that if he cuts the jewel from his hair, which means that he would lose his caste, that this would be same as dying. And this is the symptom of Kali, that people commit sinful activities, and they are not punished because of that. And this is the same situation that we find in Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna is on the battlefield and he is feeling that what is dharma, what is the right thing to do, because on the other side they are my relatives, they are my teachers, and I am engaging in battle, so what is the right thing to do? And then the same situation is that there is Krishna there who tells him, okay, dharma is actually you do service for me, you are my devotee. This is the supreme dharma, and then it's my will that these people are killed. So I certainly would like that people accept Krishna as the supreme, and we are also we are instructed by Srila Prabhupada to use our abilities, to use our talents and our lives, all our lives, everything we have, to speak about Krishna to everybody we meet, and everywhere we go, that we should speak about Krishna. So I also see that this is the greatest service, that if you are blessed to understand if you are blessed by association of devotees and by the wonderful wonderful life we have opportunity to live, being aware that our only duty is, our only activity is to think about Krishna, to speak about Krishna, to glorify Him and to worship Him, and that we don't have all these other things to do, like people around the world are convinced that they need to do, like build or save money or enjoy. And so we are so much blessed by this association and by this environment, and then of course it is it should be our greatest desire that we also share this with the rest of the world, especially on this auspicious festival as Janmashtami. Many people come for this festival. It was many people say that this was the first time they visited a temple, the Janmashtami festival, and that is because so many people come and then they invite others, and it's such a big festival, and so no wonder. But it is also a mercy. And to conclude, I would like also to come back to this description of the parade, Krishna leaving. So he's in this chapter, he's leaving Hastinapur, and then in the next chapter we will hear about his ending his journey and coming into Dwaraka. But when you read about these descriptions of how he moves in his parade, then you will notice how they are the same, because people are worshipping Krishna on these occasions. So we hear that these ladies on the roof of Hastinapur houses are throwing petals, and what I noticed is that much of our deity worship program is copying these descriptions from Bhagavatam, how Krishna is going and leaving, and he is being guided by parade. And even in this chapter it was described how Uddhava and Satyaki were fanning him, and he was decorated. Oh no, the fans were decorated, and the Lord was seated on a scattered flowers and commanded them along the road. And then it was also Arjuna who was carrying umbrella which had a handle of jewels and was embroidered with lace and pearls. So we see in the morning procession. Oh yeah, that's the correct word. It's a procession when Krishna goes and he comes. He is being led in a procession. So this we see in the morning always when Srila Prabhupada is being led on a procession. He is followed by a devotee covering him with umbrella. Also, this is a description again from 71st chapter when Krishna arrived in Indraprastha with his queens. And then is described how, encouraged by her mother-in-law, Draupadi worshipped all of Lord Krishna's wives, including Rukmini, Satyabhama, Bhadra, Jambavati, Kalindi, Mitravinda, the descendant of Shibi, the chaste Nagnajiti, and the other queens of the Lord who were present. Draupadi honored them all with such gifts of clothing, flower garlands, and jewelry. So we see also that this is very much part of deity worship, offering clothing, flower garlands, and jewelry to the Lord. And especially Janmashtami festival is special because everywhere around the world the deities, they get new outfit. Even if for some other festivals they don't get new outfit, for Janmashtami, sure they get new outfit, and this is very exciting for I mean it must be exciting for pujaris, but for us devotees who just come for darshan, this is there is so much appreciation to see deities in a new outfit. So much is going on. That it's such a special darshan, the festival darshan. And of course the whole temple room is decorated with flowers. What I found also interesting in these descriptions of Krishna living and coming to cities is how it is described how there are a lot of instruments being played. Like here it says Sutas, Magadas, Gandharvas, Vandis, jesters, and Brahmanas all glorified the lotus-eyed Lord, some reciting prayers, some dancing and singing, as mridangas, conch shells, kettle drums, veenas, pranavas, and gomukas resounded. So this is I think good opportunity if we have desire or ability to expand the festival, that there is always, we don't have to always use the same, we don't have to always make it the same. There are ways that festival can be expanded, and then all these instruments can be included in the kirtan. Especially, I was thinking, what are these instruments? I don't even know for most of them how do they look like. Like a gomuka, I think it's some kind of flute, and kettle drum also. I don't know. It's some kind of also sound making instrument, and also there is description. Is it? I just want to read it also because I found it very interesting for me. This is from it will be read in the next chapter. The expert dramatists, artists, dancers, singers, historians, and genealogists and learned speakers all gave their respective contributions, being inspired by the superhuman pastimes of the Lord. Thus they proceeded on and on. So this is not unusual for welcoming Krishna includes dramatic performance, artists, probably they are playing a drama, this is the same, and they are dancing. I mean, as I understand, in India it is combined art form, dancing and drama. And then historians, why would some welcoming procession, how to say, a group of people welcoming Krishna who is coming in a procession, why would they speak histories or genealogies? This, I don't know, I have never seen, but this is actually what is most interesting to me, that you have people who are as part, it is part of the ceremony, and then they are reciting history. And genealogy here means it is a list of kings, either kings or parampara, the disciplic succession. So they are also doing this as part of the welcoming ceremony. So I think I would very much like to see that, or somehow participate in that. So I will end here. And I thought I have a lot to cover, so I took all the time. But if there is some question, okay, welcome. We have two people now. Okay. Maybe you can.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for a nice class. These 16,100 girls that were kidnapped by Bhaumasura, elsewhere it is also mentioned that they were rishis in their previous lives and they did great penances and they got boon to marry the Lord in his next incarnation. And he also quoted from one reference that they were Krishna's internal potencies. Mm-hmm. So how do we understand? Is it sometimes a personality has more than one person, like it's a combination, or because these rishis were Jiva Tattva, they were not Krishna's expansions, they were not his internal potencies, those who were actually doing penances. So how do we understand?
Okay, my understanding is, because in that purport I quoted by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains why is this exact number, 16,000 and 100, and he says specifically there are 16 potencies, internal potencies, and that these 16 potencies each expand into 1,000, and that is how we get this number. So for me, conclusion is that all these mentions, how there were rishis who were performing penances and then became Krishna's queens, that these are all leelas, that it's not that Jiva performs penances and then becomes a Shakti. It's a different tattva. This was explained to me by my husband. It's pleasure potencies. It's Shakti tattva, and conditioned jivas. They can be conditioned, or they can be eternally liberated or eternally conditioned. And if they are eternally conditioned, they may perform penances, and then they become qualified to participate in the pastimes in the spiritual world. So for us who are conditioned jivas, this is the only thing that we can achieve. But obviously in the spiritual world there are different personalities who are eternally they never change their identity. They never become impure in any way. They just accompany Krishna in his with his different forms to perform pastimes, and then they come back. And all these, most of his associates are in that category, like his parents, his friends. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat. Mataji, actually there are 108 gopis. We say out of 108 gopis, 8 are prominent.
Yeah.
So I think Rukmini, Jambavati, Satyabhama, etc.
Yeah.
So out of those, 2 are very prominent, Radharani and Chandravali. There are two are most prominent, Radharani and Chandravali.
Yes. Radharani, Srimati Radharani, she is not Krishna's queen.
Now, my question is, Mataji, so when out of these 2, Radharani, everywhere everybody is taking, and even all the temples they are placing Radharani along with 8 Ashtasakis. Say Tungavijja, Chitramata, like that. But Chandravali, nowhere is people are exhibiting her name. Even Radharani, everywhere Radharani is there, along with Ashtasakis are there.
Yes.
But Chandravali is also a prominent. Out of these 2, Radha and Chandravali is also prominent.
Yeah, like in this commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, his principal queens are full expansions of his supremely complete pleasure potencies, the gopis. So the queens are expansions of the gopis. This is what I get from here. Just like Krishna has expansions, this is called the plenary expansion, and similarly the gopis also, they have expansions, and this is, I mean, at least about, yeah, it's on the same page. In Krishna's case, the verse ete chansha kalapum sa Krishna stu bhagavan svayam indrari vyakulam lokam ridayanti yuge yuge, that all of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa is the original personality of Godhead. So similarly, it's for Radharani, that she's the supreme. She's the supreme gopi, and other gopis and queens are expand as plenary portions. But of course, Śrīmati Radharani is a big secret. That is why, for his Dwaraka pastime, she is in separation from Krishna, and we only know about her because of Lord Chaitanya. Otherwise, she's a big secret. Okay, yes.
As I understood, Prabhu was asking how is that Radharani Chandravali are mentioned as the most prominent, and we have the other 8 gopis on the altar. We have Lalita, Vishakha, Champakalata, Indulekha, Kundavindya, Chitra.
That was his question.
So the answer is that yes, Rupa Goswami mentions Radharani and Chandravali as the most prominent gopis, and of these 2, Radharani is the most beloved of Krishna. But Chandravali, she belongs to the opposing camp. But the most prominent in Radharani's camp are Lalita, Vishakha, and others. So the most prominent in Radharani's camps we be having on the altar, but most prominent in general are Radharani, Chandravali, and some other Sakis. Lalita, Vishakha also there. So just this difference. Most prominent in Radharani's camp and most prominent in general.
Okay.
I hope that's okay.
Thank you for backing me up. So we can conclude. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Krishna Janmashtami ki jai.